It's all good. Hey, everybody.
What up?
I have a special guest for you all today, so I'm gonna wait for everybody to join in. Would you like to introduce yourself?
I am Gerald's sister.
Yes, y'all may have heard me talk about her.
Really?
I mean, not on the cam, but my
Oh,
friends. I talk about you like all the
oh gosh.
time. All right, so I'm gonna wait for y'all to join in. Oh, let me yeah, I posted kind of late because I was running my mouth with my sister. No, I'm not gonna say your name, but anyway, I was running my mouth and I got stuck here like always happens. So she agreed to join for our chat today.
Thanks for having me.
And all right, y'all, I'm gonna wait for some people to join. Fuck, that's that guy. All right, y'all, forgive me. And we're gonna get started on our topic. All right, y'all, technical difficulties. All right. Woo, all right. So I had to handle some stuff. All right, I'm back. So y'all, today we're learning. Let's bounce this idea off of my sister because we learn it for ourselves in different ways. And so I'm learning it in a spiritual context. She's just learning it in the context of, I would say, life and like being a mother and being, a wife and an employee and all the other things. But like I think as we move throughout life, we find new ways to there we go. Who's there? We learn new ways to trust ourselves. Hey Angela, how are you? Welcome. Hey Nicole. Thank goodness for joining. This is my sister, you all.
Hi.
Um, Angela is from New York, Brooklyn, New York, and in my manifestation group. And Nicole is from Wisconsin, and she's also in a group. So yeah, trusting yourself. um, so yeah, we were just discussing like and kind of comparing our experiences growing up and like where we are in life right now. So, because of what society dictates or what our background, our experiences, our family dictates, and how wrangling with this kind of brings out more like ways to trust yourself, new ideas around like moving throughout life, especially when it comes to, being a parent, sharing that with your kids and what values you're instilling in them. So if you like, just tell us a little about that.
Okay, so Jerry has been.
This before you say, like, we have a lot of moms in the group, so I think this is really special because that's one thing I can't speak on, you all. Like, I don't have that direct experience, so it's actually really cool to have a mom speaking to you moms and women about that. All right, go. Sorry.
So Jerry and I were just kind of talking about our upbringing. A couple of themes we hit on was, like nobody knows what you went through except for your brothers and sisters. So even though Jerry and I lived in the same household growing up, we probably received a lot of the same messages with regards to how to succeed in life and expectations in life. But because we're different people with different souls, different ideas, of course, they hit us differently.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm very traditional, probably, inside the box. I've always wished I were a little more outside the box. But I've had no reason to go outside the box. I feel safe inside the box. I know what's expected inside the box. I like being in a box where I know what's going on. Jerry, on the other hand, excuse me, Gerald. I'm sorry.
Yes, I'm like, who? Gerald's.
Gerald. Gerald, that never stopped to pray, go to school, had all these things, the things that you enjoy doing in your free time. All of those things were not encouraged. And so through our talk, through you sharing that with me, and a lot of things that Jerry shared with me, I'm realizing I'm kind of incorporating not just how I was raised into my expectations for my children, but also how he responded to how we were raised in our expectations for children. So one thing we were talking about today is I'm very confident in my intuition because I have generations of knowledge shared to me through my grandmothers, through my mother, through my dad too, but I have a very tight relationship with the women in my family. What works and what doesn't work. And so when I am confronted with challenges, I feel like I know very well what are the consequences, what are the risks, what are the benefits, and I make my decisions based around that. So I trust my intuition quite a bit. Gerald said that he had trouble trusting his intuition because everything that he innately felt went against common convention. And so when you feel a certain way and you're constantly being told, no, don't do that, do this, it causes you to not trust yourself. As a parent, how to play out. Well, before I get to that, um,
Ooh, that just unearthed some stuff for me. I can't wait to talk about it.
so before I get to parenting, how that's resulted is while I'm very comfortable in my intuition and choices that I make, again, I say I'm not a very outside of the box thinker, and I wish I was because when it comes to problem solving, I do very well when I've seen an example and can follow it, but I don't do very well when I have to come up with a solution on my own. Gerald, however, is very good at that. And he said that he's become more comfortable in his intuition as an adult because he's been forced to examine why is he outside the box? Why is he comfortable outside the box? Why is he uncomfortable inside the box? And then have conversations with, all of us to the point where he's had to defend his thoughts and ideas. And so he's more comfortable outside the box now. He learned that as an adult. I learned to trust myself as a kid growing up. Um, Ways in which I need to grow is getting outside the box. And I don't really quite know how to do that. So I just listen to Gerald and I pick up things. As I say, he sets the example and I just follow it. So where it comes to raising kids, I realize that again, I'm very traditional and I want to impart to my kids the good things that I got from my parents, and try not to burden them with things that limit me.
Hey,
And
Courtney.
it's a very double edged sword because I want them to have a firm spiritual foundation. We grew up Black Catholic. I think that's a perfectly fine way to have my kids grow up. Um, and we were kind of talking about, just because I'm Black Catholic doesn't mean I can't pull things from other spiritual practices. I'm open to that. I respect other cultures. And I want my kids to do the same. I just need them to have a jumping off point with which to imbue to them certain values. Um,
Like a foundation,
thank you, a foundation. I just need them to have a
like a
foundation
spiritual foundation.
while studying other cultures or respecting other cultures because as adults they're going to choose what they want to do.
Hmm.
I don't want to limit them in any way, and this is where I think being a parent is kind of tough because if my child wants to go off and create their own, I'm just trying to think of like a simple example. If they want to wear their own clothes to school, pick out their own clothes, they're not matching, they're not made for the season that we're in. There's a very strong part of me that wants to be like, no, this needs to match, and you need to have a coat on because it's cold outside. There's to be said about picking out your own clothes and being cold because you just have to wear a coat, and you'll learn your lesson the hard way. Um, that's just like a real simple example of kind of what I'm talking about. Like, I want them to trust themselves. I want them to explore, but I don't want them to have no roots and be taken advantage of easily. So that's kind of what I'm struggling with as a parent. I shouldn't say struggling because I have toddlers and a baby, so there's not but so much they're gonna do. But yet, but I also don't want them to end up being teenagers and trying everything under the sun and ended up putting themselves in harm's way. I want them to have some kind of foundation. So I want to find out how to be the best mom, not a dream killer, but provide a foundation that they can soar from,
Hmm.
not a foundation that's going to trap them in a jail cell.
Yeah,
But I don't want them to end up in jail.
and that's funny, you all, because right. So like this hit on some things for me. And Nicole said, I like what Nicole said. She said, I've had to understand that each of my children have their own lessons and paths, and I just try and support. I love that, Nicole, because I think that's ultimately like what you want to do as a parent. And like, y'all, this is going all over the place. Forgive us. but but it's cool because we're all friends, you all. So like, what my sister just said, which touched on something for me, is that like she always was able to trust herself because she had this role model, this example set. Hey, April, she had this example set, and she knew what decisions to make, and she felt confident in making whatever decisions because she knew. Oh my gosh, yes, Nicole has. So I did not know you had a 22-year-old though. Wow, that's quite a range. So you have lots of experience to draw upon, Nicole. But like we both received that, and I knew how to make the decisions the same way. But for me, it's like she did very well in the paradigm that we were taught based upon what our parents emphasized to us and everything about how we should make decisions, how we should navigate throughout life. Like that worked for her. The thing about me that's really kind of a secret, and I had to understand this about myself, is I'm actually a conformist. Like my strategy growing up was just to blend in, to blend the fuck in, to follow suit, to go along with, like, don't cause a stir. And why? Because I did have her like older than me, and she pioneered so much stuff. Like ventured out into the world. She did so many things, and she got a lot of attention for that. And then I was next in line, and so it was like I just sort of followed in line with what she did, and I felt like I could get some of the praise that she got. And it's like I didn't really explore who I was because the precedent had already been set. And so, but what happened was it set up this precedent for blending in. It's like I have a lot of things about me which are very, very unconventional. It's like I couldn't blend in if I tried. I mean, I have a personality that does blend in, but I have a lot of very unique things about me which keep me like sort of outside of that convention that's placed there. And so it wasn't until I became an adult and I started to embrace that I started to uncover like so many different unique gifts and things about me. And that's where I got my self trust from. April and I were just talking about this last night, but that's where I got a lot of trust from. It's like tapping into that and saying, "Hey, this is special. This is unique, and this is worthy of sharing." Because for so long it was like, no, no, it's just like cover that up because that's not what's going to get you the type of acknowledgement that you deserve or whatever. Like you get acknowledgement by following this pattern that's been set out for you, this path, falling into conventions. So like, it's interesting hearing that perspective because it's like now I'm following my own path and I'm making all these discoveries or whatever, and I get to share them with her and we get to compare notes and stuff like that. But I definitely learned to trust myself and not look for the validation or the acknowledgement from people outside because what they're basing that on is not even on necessarily their values, but it's based on stuff that's been handed down or things that have worked in their life. But it's like by not acknowledging your own experiences and your own gifts and abilities and things like that, it's like you deny yourself and those around you that experience, and it's stuff that could potentially help everybody. Like just exploring and being you and valuing that. It's like because I hid that shit for so long. It's like okay, I was shrinking myself, and I wasn't even achieving the result that I wanted because the very people that were I felt like were encouraging me to shrink myself were the ones that were looking at me like, "What the fuck is wrong with you?" And it's like, wow, I'm trying my best to conform and do what you all base your values on, and like, I'm still not getting like a good result. And y'all are looking at me like, what the fuck is wrong? What the fuck is wrong with me is you all, which is really what the fuck is wrong with me is me. Because rather than knowing my own worth and living life from my heart, it's like I'm living it based upon these values that are handed to me.
And I think that's the key to like when you're rearing children. What I'm learning from Gerald is when I say I don't want my kids to end up out here willy nilly just believing anything and following anybody, it's when you validate your children, they will understand how to trust themselves. They will understand to have self worth, and they will not be looking for validation elsewhere. I mean, yes, they may look for validation for you from a certain point, but as you
Hmm.
become an adult, you have to learn to trust yourself, trust your, like you said, trust your own experiences, and trust your own path. And so, my job as a parent is yes to give you a firm foundation,
Hmm.
but also validate who you are and this is, I feel like we're getting into generational stuff here because we don't care what you think. This is how I am. And the
Hmm.
more we see people doing that, the more, like I said, if I have an example on how to succeed, I'm going to follow that. Well, I'm not you. You didn't
Hmm.
have an example on how to succeed in your path.
Hmm.
But now that you're able to do that, in the more free you are to live your life, you give other people permission to shine and live in their lives as
Right,
well. And
right.
so that's what I want for my kids. I don't want to be a dream crusher unless they follow the only path that I set out for them. I want them to be able to explore with intention,
Yeah.
not get bamboozled and run them up, but be able to explore, trust their instinct, validate themselves, and find happiness that they will find in their own path.
Right. And like, I love that. And it's like, okay, we talked about several things and you're kind of getting the tail end of a lot of things that we discussed. So I'm going to try to bring some of it back in for you. But like, I think it's really interesting about what she said about, well, I just don't want them to end up in jail or I don't want this to happen. Like, I get that as a concern as a parent. Like,
Especially as a black parent.
that's a
Go
whole other,
ahead.
that's a whole
That's
other
a whole nother
thing.
thing, but
That's a
let's be real. We're
whole,
raising black kids in America.
she said
Okay,
a
go
whole
ahead.
nother thing.
Whole
That's
nother.
a whole other thing. But like, but I was gonna say, like, what if that's a lesson for them to have? You know what I mean? Like,
No.
you know what? And that's a judgment that you have. You know what I mean? And it's like, that's cool, but it's like, you have to understand that's your judgment based on your perception and your fears and everything for your child. Um, that may be a lesson that they have. You know what I mean?
It might
It's
be, but I hope that I give them more lessons before that happens.
right. And, thinking that, all right, so this is what we mentioned that stood out to me. It's like, I have recently had these realizations that, like, I heard somebody say that, society wants to contract you and that spirit wants to expand you. And I kind of had this realization the other day that, like, your ego, society is like your ego on a macrocosm. Just like the universe is like your soul on a macrocosm. And your soul wants to expand, just like the universe is constantly expanding. Like, it's always expanding, expanding, expanding. Hey, Danielle, what's up? How are you? So, your ego and society wants to contract you. They want to put you in a box. They want to label you. They want you to disempower you or whatever. And basically, you have on the different ends of the spectrum, you have fear and love. Society works on fear, your ego works on fear, and your soul and the universe works on love. So it's like you're constantly being pulled by these different things. And so if I raised a child, like, I think my objective in raising a child would be to, like, I think a lot of people's objective is just to create the perfect child based upon their values. Sorry, Daniel, I put it in really late today too, so that may have been something. Sorry about that. I was running my mouth, but I think a lot of people, they just want them to be the vessel of all of their values and beliefs and everything, and they want them to grow up to be a reflection of those values. But I think, based on what I know now, if I were to raise a child, my goal would be to just allow them to fully express who they are at the highest level, to self-actualize, whatever that looks like, because I want to teach them that, like, this we live in a world of infinite possibilities. Like, you could do whatever you want, good, bad, whatever. And just I want to create an individual that can navigate those infinite possibilities as a creator. Like, and fully empowered. That would be my objective. And so, like, if that entails things that I'm scared of, like, there have been plenty of people who went to jail and that was a turning point in their life that, like, taught them valuable lessons. It's a very extreme example, but, like, people done it, like Malcolm X. Uh, it's just, I wouldn't want them to go to jail from a disempowered standpoint where they feel like they ended up in a situation they had no control over. But if you create somebody who is like a fully empowered being and they know their values and spirit, they can go into a situation like that and still reach new heights and things like that. So, like,
I think that's the key. We want to have kids who are fully empowered as they can be.
right? Right, Angela?
And our parents raised us from their knowledge of how to be successful or empowered. That may not have necessarily that may not fit every mold.
Right.
And So yes, I agree with you when you say that. I still don't want my kids in jail, but
Right. No, I don't think anybody wants
I
kids
want
in
every decision they made
jail.
to be fully empowered,
Hmm.
not at the whim of what they think somebody thinks is cool or whatever. Okay, go ahead.
Right. And it may not look like what you think you all,
Right.
Some people do drugs, we're taught drugs are bad.
They're bad.
Hello.
See the difference? See the difference
Hmm.
here? I'm very judgy. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, we all have our judgments. That's the thing, whatever. But like, I think it's moving past that because once again, judgment kind of like constricts and it contracts you, and then non-judgment expands you. It's just the two different things. So I think like the trust comes in when it's like trust your own story, trust your own experience. And it's like we have created these narratives in society. All right, this is another thing. Y'all, I always want to make these things short and they end up being way longer. But like it's a way that society functions. One way that I've noticed that functions recently is that there are taboos in society and there are institutions. Like we have certain institutions that we urge people into because society decides it's a good thing. So it's like we have marriage, we have education, we have blah 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 blah, and it's like we urge people down these paths because we have just decided that it's good. We also have things in society which are like taboos, and those are things that we discourage people from. And one thing I've learned on my journey is like a lot of the things that are taboo are some of my greatest like learning lessons, the most empowering things. So it's like, okay, who determined these institutions, these taboos, and why do we just go along with it blindly? It's like a function of society, which is contracting. So like I think when you're fully actualized and empowered, you have the ability to navigate the world, not on society's understanding, but just like on your soul, spirit, awareness understanding. And when you can do it, you can be much more empowered because it's expensive. So it's like I can go into any situation and sort of like figure it out because I trust myself. And so trust is an operation of the confidence and the knowledge of self on a spiritual level. Like you can trust yourself and trust your story. And that way you're not reliant on society's narrative or story for how things are the way they are and whatever purposes those serve. Like you can just trust your own story, your own soul. So like if I had that development of self-trust and confidence when I was a kid, I wouldn't have to wait until this point and be like, okay, whoo, I can feel validated because this person says it and that. It's like, no, I feel validated because I know who I am. I know that what I'm about. I know myself on a soul level. And it's like, I have within me the tools to handle any situation. It's not about whether somebody thinks this is valuable or not or worthy, which is really just a reflection of how much I trust. But it all goes hand in hand. So, like, that's what I call just trust yourself. And, like, that's what I would try to pass on to any kids or whatever. Like, we all have our own lessons, our own journeys. And it's like, the more you can get somebody to trust yourself, the better it's gonna be, and the less you have to worry about judgments and blah blah blah. What do y'all think about it? That was heavy, y'all. Nicole, you have 5 kids at all different stages, so I get you probably get this on multiple levels. Courtney, you have a young child. April has a high schooler. Like, have y'all come across this at all? How have y'all navigated that? Is there some way you navigate that, Nicole? Like distinguishing between like Danielle, I'm sorry, I didn't get everybody.
Bless the aunties and the uncles out there because I feel like y'all are the fun part of raising children. Seriously,
Which
I
is the
mean,
fun part to do.
right. As far as know, the kids value their time with you, and you may or may not validate what we're saying, but sometimes the aunts and uncles give the kids a little extra freedom to explore that the parents don't do. And I remember my aunts and uncles growing up. That's why they were fun. That's why I loved them. So I feel like my kids feel the same way about Gerald.
Y'all, it's fun. And it's hard being a parent. Oh my gosh, you have so much to think about, like outside of just this is the stuff outside of the day-to-day grind. This is like the yeah, it's easy to get caught up in the day-to-day, but like this is the stuff you got to think about, like when you get outside, of
Yeah,
all of that.
yeah.
Nicole said her oldest son is whew, like it's a lot to deal with. I'm sure he's probably testing you on all these different things. 22, that's that age. Teach my niece that she is a goddess and she can have what she wants. Yeah, Danielle. Okay, so you're incorporating some of what we're talking about, like that soul consciousness, that soul awareness. That's really cool. How is she responding to that? That's cool, Danielle. Like, it's so important. Unconditional love. Wow, that's funny. We were just talking about that too. Is it hard, Nicole, or do you like, speaking of trust, do you really trust him to do what's best for him? Welcome, whoever just joined.
A very a child's perspective, but until you know people's religious affiliations or whatever. But
Sharina, welcome.
hey, Sharita, you know, as someone previously said, each of your children has their own personality, their own challenges, their own strengths, and you love each of them the best you can for who they are. Like you love all your children equally, theoretically, but
Hmm.
what that really means is you give each child all of your love, and it may look different for each child.
Right.
But I didn't truly understand that until having kids, and I'm like, oh, this is how the creator must love us. Like I think each of my kids is the most interesting, fabulous, wonderful thing on the planet. I know their
Hmm.
faults. They
Hmm.
try me sometimes,
Hmm.
and I love them to pieces, and no matter what they do, I'll love them. I'm like, wow, like that's actually how God loves us. Whoa.
Yeah, yeah,
I can
love.
now physically understand what that feels like. I couldn't understand
Wow.
it as a kid, but I can
Hmm.
physically understand it as a parent.
Wow. That's cool. Y'all said some interesting things. Let me back up a little bit. Danielle, I love what you were saying. Like Nicole said, the son is teaching her unconditional love and support. That's cool. Danielle said she climbs and stuff and all of that. She knows she's supportive because I create a safe space for her, and if she doesn't hurt herself, if she does hurt herself a little, she knows I'll make it all better. That's so cool. Like, let your kids like explore and learn because the things that you share with them, like one thing I've learned from my parents is like they spend a lot of energy trying to like prevent us from learning hard lessons in life. But the thing is, because they already learned that lesson, they understood the lesson, but we didn't necessarily get the lesson. It's like sometimes even though you may know the outcome, even as I was doing, I may have known the outcome, but I didn't know it like for myself. So it's not quite the same thing. And it's like some parents I think get mixed up trying to prevent their children from like experiencing certain things. And then your children are kind of like your fears incarnate, and they're your like subconscious incarnate. So like a lot of the things that we try to prevent for them, or like experiences we don't want them to have, is things that we have strong feelings around. So it's like we think we're doing for them, but we're really trying to shoot ourselves from having to deal with certain aspects. So that's really. I love all these comments, you all. All right, I'm going back to Nicole. She said I have to take my hands off the wheel. He's going to live like he's becoming his own adult. Even though is doing what I would want him to do, I had to realize that's his own lesson. So absolutely, Nicole, what we were just talking about.
Nicole, I'm scared. I'm trying to prep them because I can't take. I have heart attacks. I'm trying to prep them before they get to that point.
Y'all, she has so many hard like she's scared.
Uh,
April said, I definitely let Cameron explore and I get into whatever it is she's into. I don't care if it only lasts for a second. That's true, yo, because like the thing is like being an adult, we want to see like fruits for our labor, or we want to earn on every investment. And sometimes we get so caught up in it, they have this natural sense of play. And I think when you evolve in your spiritual path, that's what you get back to. You unleash the inner child, like you heal it, and then you unleash it. And the inner child has a sense of wonder about the world and a sense of play with like endless possibilities. And so as we become adults, we become like indoctrinated into the society where it's like, okay, every effort you expend must have some sort of reward, like financial especially, but some sort of return. Otherwise, it's like it's not enough to just do something and enjoy it for just the sheer joy of it. It's like, oh, you must show a return. I spent this money on this activity. We did this. What is the result? And it's like, it's so important to let your kids just like play, like and just experience
the
life.
result might be the child laying down in the goalpost because she's bored.
Right. Like,
You know, full well, as soon as y'all leave, she's gonna be running around.
That translate into trusting your kids and teaching them to trust themselves and just being fully empowered and doing whatever it is that they want to do. Y'all know we always talk about empowerment. Excellent, Angela. Like that he matters and he is enough. I think that's the ultimate goal of like any person. They want to be seen. They want to know they are enough and that they matter. Ugh. All right, y'all. Have a wonderful day. Way to